and welcome once again to another episode of 8 of the K's WrestleTalk podcast. You're here with the eater of pizza. It's me, Anthony. And I'm here, as always, with the nominal one. It's Carl.
That is me.
Good evening, Carl. How are we doing?
Well, Anthony, I sit here before you with a tear in my eye. This is going to be the greatest episode in the history of the world. Woo! So I just thought I'd carry that on from the last show there, you know.
I love it.
Ric Flair promo and all.
I mean, you've got a pretty much a Ric Flair woo there. I'll be honest with you, that's impressive.
Well, you know,
I dare say it's better than his own blood. It's better than Charlotte's. It actually had a lot more enthusiasm than Charlotte's.
Woo.
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 Love life. Right. So we have another fun-filled week of wrestling action, Carl.
We do.
Obviously, we'll review the week in wrestling, but I think first and foremost, and I do enjoy putting it first, so it'll instead of numbering them, I'm just going to call them what they are. So we'll be covering the Ringside reports. We'll be covering the news that we've had this week in wrestling. Then we'll be going on to something I've been looking forward to, Carl, and I'm going to stick with the title. We're going to test the best, because I've been saying for a long time that you are our wrestling historian. Certainly, as far as I'm concerned, you are the knowledge on wrestling history.
See, off the back of this, I'm going to have to find a new gimmick. I'm not going to be able to be that anymore.
Thing is, right, this might be a little unfair to you, because what's going to happen for those listening, we're going to do a little quiz, but it's going to be massively one-sided. I'm going to quiz Carl. And I'm going to quiz Carl from a quiz I found on the internet, which labels itself as the most difficult Attitude Era quiz you'll ever take. So it's slightly unfair to you, Carl, because you obviously aren't just a child of the Attitude Era. Your history goes much further back than that. So this isn't an overall thing. This is purely Attitude Era stuff. However, I think I don't know. I don't think you have anything to worry about. I've seen the questions. I think it'll be fine. I wouldn't.
Famous last words.
I'll be honest. I got about 20%, but I'm quietly confident, Carl. I'm quietly confident for you. So before we kick off with all that, before we get into the quiz, Carl, I'll let you stew on that one. I'll let you hype up for it. We'll cover the Ringside report. Loving it, Carl. Yeah. Whiskey's a hand. Anyone watching, I don't know where my glass is, so we're sticking with the whole decanter, the whole damn decanter.
Why the hell not? It's what a real man does. Doesn't need a little fancy glass. He just goes straight from the bottle.
I'll be honest, it might come across as a little bit more like, oh, look at me, I've got a decanter. I don't know. You say fancy glass, like... right, so... Ringside report, Carl. Probably not as worrying as last week. We had a lot going on with the speaking out movement. Don't get me wrong, that's still happening. We still have some other things to report that are sort of a direct follow-on from that. But overall, probably less contentious this week in terms of news. So the first one I've got, Carl, is Baron Corbin. Now, apparently, he is the planned feud for Matt Riddle. I think they've potentially made that fairly obvious with what happened on SmackDown, and we'll talk about that. Not as obvious as WWE could have been, but they've made it fairly obvious that, you know, we're going to have that sort of feud going forward. But the first one I've got is that Baron is apparently not overly thrilled with the prospect that he is going to be the one that the original bro is going to cut his teeth on, let's say. And has been quoted as saying that he feels that he should have faced, I think he said 5 developmental talents before getting to Corbin, which is a slightly arrogant statement, and I wonder sometimes whether that's just in keeping with his heel gimmick. And you like to think that, you know, if you look at what happened last week for Riddle, you know, he's come in and he's took on AJ, and as much as I weren't happy with that, he got a clean win over the Intercontinental Championship and a wrestler such as AJ Styles. You know, it's not that unrealistic that he'd go on to face Corbin, as far as I'm concerned. But how do you feel about Corbin's response? Do you think this is just a thing to get people's backs up a little bit, or do you think he truly feels like he's a level above and shouldn't be? Or
I mean, if it's the latter, then fucking hell, he needs to just have a look at himself a bit, doesn't he? Like, you know, he's not going to be anything special, Corbin, is he? He doesn't. He's never going to get to like an elite level. So
Do you know, you
should
say
just
that,
get
right? I could see him, all due respect to him, being a jobber for that long that he gets a shot. You know what I mean? Like, everyone else is retired. He's still there. Let's give him a world title run, you know.
Maybe, but I don't know. Like, hopefully he's just trolling people, but it's definitely not a step down or anything for him to be taking on Matt Riddle, who they're pushing to the moon at the minute.
And he's got credentials, Matt. You know what I mean? He's a legitimate UFC fighter, albeit not very long, but he was more legitimate than CM Punk, some might say, in terms of UFC bouts. And he's had a really good run in NXT. That even just his parting shot, that match with Thatcher, with that, I can't remember what they called it now, pit fight. It was half a cage, and that was an epic match. And then he comes straight on with AJ Styles. So I mean, for me at the minute, he's looking awesome. So it'd be interesting to see. I mean, I'm not blaming Corbin when I say this, but it's usually the kiss of death going into a feud with Corbin because WWE don't let them end. I remember the main one I'm on about, him and Roman Reigns just seems to go on forever. And even when you thought it was done, it's like, no, we're gonna have another cage match as well. It's like, just stop, just let it stop. We're done. It's over. But no, I sincerely hope it is a work. I hope he's not that deluded that he thinks just because he's on the sort of main roster that he's like this big important figure that like Riddle can't face up against straight away. It seems an odd statement, and from my point of view, I do think it's a work. But that's the first one for me, Carl. That's what I've got. What have you got for me?
Okay, so the first one on my list this week is an anonymous WWE superstar has leaked how WWE have been handling the whole coronavirus situation. So one of the big kind of call outs from that as well was particularly how Kevin Dunn was apparently heard kind of telling people several times not to wear masks, not to, basically don't follow any of the social distancing rules or anything, and just, it's going to ruin his 27 different camera cuts that he does on a weekly basis. So that
was the warning about. He's like, I know there's a few of you here, but you never know when I'm going to cut to you. So no masks.
I mean, that might make a little bit more sense, to be honest. But I don't know. He's it's just a weird one, I think, for him to be kind of saying that and putting people at risk. It's a very bizarre thing. And whoever this anonymous superstar is who's come out and said that, it seems like it's kind of rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So yeah, I don't know. It's definitely a strange one, considering it just seems like a basic disregard of the rules and the safety measures that have been put in place. But
I mean,
strange.
Imagine WWE must be sort of shitting themselves, for lack of a better way of putting it, at the minute, given what's happened with Florida quite recently. The numbers spiking, particularly in their state, and obviously we hearing as part of these rumors the likes of them saying not to divulge whether they've been tested positive or anything. Don't give anything away, and I understand they're probably trying to do some sort of damage control, but obviously we've had this leak now, and it doesn't look good for them. Especially when comparatively, and I don't want to sound like an AEW fanboy, but comparatively, when you know that they're turning up and they're getting tested, every time they go down there to put on a show, they're taking no risks at all. You got the likes of John Moxley, who hasn't actually tested positive, but because one of the names quite recently that have come out that tested positive was Renee Young. They're not taking any chances with him, so he's going to isolate from Renee, and he's going to not do much now until Fyter Fest, in the aim of trying to get that title match done. And you got to admire their approach is a lot more cautious, from what I can see, and from what these rumors certainly suggest. Yeah, what do you want to do?
Definitely.
So, that being said, slightly following on from yours, Carl, really, is that as a precaution from WWE, they've asked Natalia and Tyson Kidd, because I can't remember his real name, to sit out of the tapings for the next couple of weeks. Now, I didn't realize this, but Tyson is now a producer. He actually still works with WWE, just not in a superstar capacity, as it were, which makes a lot of sense because obviously, sadly, his career was kind of cut short due to injuries, and he still, by the looks of it, has a lot to offer the business. So this has come about because both himself and Natalia are obviously they're married and live together, and he had a temperature. So they tested both of them. Both tested negative for the virus, but not want to take any chances and potentially not to want to add any fuel to the fire of all these leaks at the moment. They've currently asked Natalia and TJ to sit out for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of them, and it does. It makes sense, I suppose.
It does. I mean, you got to. I do feel sorry for any company at the minute when the story driven as well. That they look like they were trying to start something there with Natty, and now that's gonna have to. Oh, to be fair, they're not too far in. It's not like AJ Styles is suddenly ill. Do you know what I mean? It's not gonna totally ruin the company or anything. All due respect to Natty, but it must be frustrating that they never know who's going to be next and who they have to take cautions with next. And, it's difficult to keep any sort of storyline sort of long term anyway running. But, hopefully it was a negative test, but hopefully, nothing comes of the temperature and everything's cleared and they do their isolation and come right back to it,
And hopefully nothing comes of the storyline that they tried to put out because it was a load of shit. So
yeah, I mean,
maybe it's a godsend.
I'll be honest, Carl. Every cloud. Yeah.
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 So the next one then, in a very, very kind of similar vein to what we've been talking around.
It's almost deliberate. This, mate. It just flows perfectly, doesn't it?
I know, it's crazy how that works, isn't it? But with everything going on, we mentioned before around like the safety concerns with Kevin Dunn, and we've mentioned now around Natty and TJ, and anyone can be next. So what? Basically, a lot of people are saying, well, should Tapings just stop until things die down a little bit? Obviously.
See, I'm of two minds with this because I read on a particular website that they were basically just out and out saying, yeah, no, this should stop. It's getting ridiculous. Just lambasting both companies, AEW and WWE. And weirdly, no mention of TNA. Anyway, but for me, there seems to have been a lot more cases for WWE than there have been for AEW. And don't be wrong, I'm sure there are cases. They're definitely limiting the numbers and so on. But I don't necessarily think they have to stop. I think they just need to consider their approach. I mean, and what the stars are willing to do. Are the stars willing to isolate from everyone just for the sake of being on the show and getting the show done? Or are they not willing to do that and therefore they might want to consider not using that star? I don't know. I mean, it's grueling no matter what way you look at it. But at the end of the day, it's a money business like any business. It's like suggesting that shops should shut or in our case, in the UK at the minute, public houses, pubs are closed and they're reopening next week. And you go to yourself, well, is that too soon? But at the same time, people need to make money, and this is the problem. That they're going to be looking at money first, and as much as you want to consider the superstars, that'll be the bottom line for these companies. And unless they're forced to, they're not going to stop, are they? Let's be honest. Despite that, apparently Vince has made a profit this year, but when hasn't he?
Well, yeah, I mean, this year was meant to be WWE's most profitable year, and they've ended up like sacking a shitload of people, and like they're still going putting shows on and stuff like that. You've had the Premier League, the NBA, the NFL, all these kind of big sports names who've kind of had to suspend their seasons and kind of take that financial hit and stuff, but WWE have just carried on through all of it. And it's I don't know. It's an interesting one, I suppose, especially as things go back on the rise again, and it's especially in Florida as well. Which, basically, I want to go to Disney next year, so you need to sort your shit out and don't ruin my holiday. Is what I'm saying.
Because, yeah, I mean that's what we want to happen. I mean, Carl, you've been visiting Florida, the UK for guidance and advice on your trip to Florida.
Well, exactly,
and you don't want all that to be in vain.
Exactly. We need the money from Florida to sponsor the show, guys. So I need to be able to travel to Florida with Florida's advice. Otherwise, So basically, quit it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, sort it out. All we're asking is that everyone stop what they're doing and isolate for 14 days and make sure it's just not there.
Exactly. I mean, we can suspend disbelief. I'm sure they can have live WWE Raw, SmackDown via Zoom, right? That could work.
Well, I mean, why not? I mean, you've got certain superstars who are married to one another. You know, we could see Edge versus Beth Phoenix quite easily without breaching any sort of regulations.
I mean, those guys got their own ring and everything. You know, the kids can get involved. Like, it'd be great. It'd be great.
You've got the
Fun
entire
for all the
Hardy
family.
compound over there for AEW. You know, his family. You know,
Well, exactly.
it's easy enough. You know, you just got to think outside the box, outside the
Exactly.
ring,
We
as
can
it were.
have like the first ever like broadband failure match where the guys just keep like promoting each other until someone's internet buffers, and then you know what I mean. There's all
I
these
love
things
it.
that we could do.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I love it. It's a top-notch idea, and you know they just need to get more creative with it. Interestingly, though, like spinning off your point slightly, you got to wonder. It's a much easier stance to take, as far as I'm concerned, for WWE. And again, I'm not trying to be an AEW fanboy, but when you look at AEW, they've not got 30 plus years worth of wrestling to lean on. You know, they're a new company. If they're not if they're not creating stuff, then they've nothing to show you other than going, hey, do you remember what happened last year? Let's watch that again, which is going to be shite.
Well, I mean, to be fair, WWE have done that anyway. They've pretty much gone, look what happened last fucking month.
Do you know what? Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I'm taking the piss this week's SmackDown, as much as it was quite in keeping this week's SmackDown showed a WrestleMania match. So yeah, you're fair point, Carl. But I don't, for me, and you know, some smart ass might say, you know, through like contract deals or licensing deals, I don't know quite how it all works, but like they've got a wealth of content there that they could put up. They could show some of the best stuff from the past. They could even show some of the content they're trying to promote from the WWE network, even in a promotional way. We're going to show you this instead of Raw, but this is the kind of stuff you're going to get on the network. You know, they could be showing Undertaker's last ride. Everyone's loved that. Everyone who's subscribed to the network, people have subscribed to the network to watch that. You know, it's been great. And somewhat, again, I could be wrong. I'm not American, so it could be televised somewhere. I don't know. As far as I'm aware, it's a network exclusive. But why not put that sort of stuff on in the same time slot? And then you're not risking any stars, and you're still getting your WWE programming out there. You're still making money. For me, it's an easier stance for them to take to go, no, we're going to stop for a bit. But
oh yeah, definitely. But
again,
well, yeah, don't know. I can't even say money talks because they're literally not losing out on anything, so they could just do it. But
yeah, I mean, God, they might bring Shane back. No.
Here comes that money. That's all I'm saying.
But yeah, so it's an interesting one, and you know, from our side of it, you know, it affects everyone, guys. I mean, if they stop, you know, having taped shows, if they stop producing something every week, what are me and Carl gonna do?
Exactly.
You selfish fuckers.
And you know, more importantly, what are you guys gonna do? Like without your weekly fix of A to the K, WrestleTalk,
exactly,
sponsored by Florida.co.uk on the WWE network for $9.99. You know, there'll be other plugs we could put in there somewhere. But you know,
I mean, you're gonna miss out on our regular weekly time slot of whenever we feel like, right?
Consistent.
Consistency is key.
If nothing less, we're consistent.
We are. We guarantee one a week.
Yeah. Have we stayed you wrong yet? Yeah. We consistently put it out at different times, at different days of the week. That's consistent, right?
It's the you know, the spice of life, and it's a bit of spontaneity. When are we going to get it? We don't know. Is it a Monday? Is it a Tuesday? Who knows? Right. So we'll move on away from the topic of should wrestling stop, and move over to the Velveteen Dream, Carl. The Velveteen Dream has made the news again. Not quite in the manner you'd expect, actually, which is a shame because the manner you'd expect would be some sort of allegation. This one, it's alleged that the Velveteen Dream was involved in a car accident. Now, thankfully, it doesn't appear to have been a particularly serious one. He's out of hospital. WWE have not offered too much in ways of information. So we can only hope it wasn't too severe and that he recovers quick. But along with this article, they've cited some of the concerns with, like, obviously this has put him out for a week, maybe more. But on top of that, we've got the speaking out movement. We've got these allegations involving the pictures that he allegedly sent as well a few months ago. And apparently it's been quoted by somebody, somebody backstage that his days are numbered with WWE. Do you think this might be the opportunity, Carl, for them to I don't know, wake up from the dream, I suppose?
Well, he's living a Velveteen nightmare at the minute, and that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's not a great few months for him, I'll be honest.
No, it's crazy, really. on the one hand, his wrestling career, and he's getting like really a load of success. He's getting, championship opportunities and stuff like that. And then, personal life just going down the fucking wazzy, innit? So
you wonder
yeah.
though, or I certainly wonder whether WWE know that they're sort of going to put the brakes on him at least for a bit, because I was expecting him to win at TakeOver. I was expecting him to take Adam Cole. Adam Cole's had the title for, I'm sure he'd be able to tell you, Carl, 300 and something fucking days. And everyone would have been on board with Dream. He had a following. No one would have been surprised if he'd have won the title. But that was quickly squashed. It was a great match at TakeOver. Slightly unorthodox match, but a great match at TakeOver. So I'm not discrediting it, but at the same time, you wonder whether they didn't put the strap on him because they knew maybe, if nothing else, it'd have to be a hiatus for a while. I don't know.
Yeah.
You never know what goes on backstage, and that's purely speculation on my part.
From what I can gather, he's still like vehemently denying these accusations. I know that they're all kind of. I think there's been a number of them now. It's not just the initial one that we had. I think there's been like 3 or 4.
I think this is the trouble. Like, sadly, in this sort of business, because it is obviously in the public eye, WWE might distance themselves just because they don't want to be seen to be supporting that, especially with the number that are creeping up. Like you say, he's had more than a couple now, I believe. And whether they're found to be true or not, you wonder whether, from a PR point of view, WWE might go, well, you know what, we're not going to put him at the front of NXT for a while, at least. You know what I mean? Not necessarily release, but you can understand from a business point of view, they won't sort of exacerbate the situation, maybe. And again, speculation, but certainly going to be out for a couple of weeks now, isn't he? So it remains to be seen, I suppose.
Yeah, let's just hope the actual car crash is the only thing in his career, shall we say? But who knows? It remains to be seen.
Remains to be seen.
So
what have you got for me,
the
Carl?
next one on the list. Wouldn't you just believe it? Our pals Randall, Kenneth Orton III, twice removed. It turns out
he's fucking removed from reality sometimes.
He not only wants to go to leg slapping class, he wants to actually have a feud now with our tomato jumper. That is. Did you see it coming?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it felt kind of like a work, but he seems to. Whilst you look at some of the stuff he says and goes, that's a bit cutting, or he seems to have a bit of a love for a few NXT talents, namely Tommaso. He thinks he's an incredible wrestler, and I don't think he's ever made any bones about that. But you got to wonder, like, given the comments he's made, you go, well, what kind of match do you want to put on with him? Non-risky one.
Yeah, I don't know. I think when he came out on Twitter doing these things and like going after him, stuff like that, I think we both were kind of like, is it a work? Is it just him, like Orton being Orton? But by all accounts, he said there's quite a few stars that he wants to work with from NXT. But he definitely has cited Tommaso Ciampa as one of the guys he definitely wants to work with. So who knows? Maybe he was planting the seeds. Maybe, because I believe he got both of them got a little bit of stick, apparently. So it was reported from having that little bit of a spat.
Oh, right,
So whether they're riding off the back of that to say, well, okay, we are trying to make it storyline or what, I don't know. But
I mean, it could be an opportunity here because he's firmly in the Legend Killer stuff at the minute, and we've got this massively exciting feud now with him and Big Show. And there's only so many legends he can go through, and we think Edge is going to be out for 8 or so months from last count, like with that type of injury typically. So you got to wonder, is maybe Tommaso going to try and sort of call him on that? Is he going to rock up on the main roster and be given the opportunity to try and take on Randy because he's injured 3 legends, and he's like, no, I'm going to stop you there, kind of thing. Who knows? Because he's apparently a good guy now, Tommaso. Like, I know it doesn't feel like that, Carl, ever, but he's a good guy. He's a face. So you never know. I mean, it could be the golden opportunity. And to be honest, I think it massively helped Raw's ratings. Raw, the weakest show WWE have got at the minute, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Worrying. That's worrying. Yeah, so for me, yeah, I can see that actually happening as well. Maybe not in the near future, maybe not exactly as I want it, where he's going to turn up anytime soon. They'll probably want to see this legend thing out. But yeah, I mean, why not? Why not? Or the other option is just let Randy kind of walk around slightly dazed and slightly bored until you tell him to do something.
Well, I mean, it
seems to be how he existed on SmackDown for a while.
There's not really going to be many legends left for him to kill, though, is there? And Edge is going to be out for a while, so you never know. Maybe
takes on the greatest legend himself.
I mean, fuck it. I'd watch that. It'd probably still be a 45-minute overbooked match, but I'd watch the hell out of it.
Yeah, it's actually just him throwing himself around backstage.
Love it.
Like, I've landed on a truck. And as ridiculous as that sounds, you know, we've had Vince McMahon versus God. So it was Vince, wasn't it? I feel like
it was Vince.
We're sure Michael's involved in that somehow.
I think he was.
Was it like his tag team partner or some shit?
I think
it was very weird.
Yeah.
And sadly, it's not the only time you'll say that about WWE, but it was very weird.
Very weird.
Yeah. So my next one, Carl, will come as no surprise, so we don't need to linger on it all too much. Following what we discussed last week, the number of names that have been listed on the Speaking Out movements and the ever-growing list, two of those names, I know certainly one we mentioned being El Ligero, the other name being Travis Banks, both involved with, I think, are they both NXT UK? Carl, I know Ligero is.
Yeah.
I even know I'm saying it wrong. Ligero. I don't know. It's all with an accent in it. They have both now been officially released from WWE. So again, it makes you wonder, following our discussion last week with the Jack Gallagher stuff, have they said to WWE, yeah, you know, it's true or whatever, we don't know, but it's a strong stance for WWE to take. By all accounts, they haven't gone full Gallagher with it and removed them completely from the website. You know, they are still listed somewhere, but they are no longer on the active roster. So we'll continue to follow what's going on with that. It's
yeah, I believe as well there was something mentioned about there being some sort of like conference call or something taking place this week for the NXT UK talent to kind of address all the situations or something. So I'm sure we'll be able to bring an update next week on how that pans out.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Right, Carl. So what's your next one?
So the next one for me, a bit of a shame, really, bit of a sad one. As we know, as part of these COVID cuts that WWE made, they got rid of.
They've been officially labelled now.
The COVID cuts. One of the superstars they actually got rid of was Sarah Logan, who's actually the wife of Eric Rowe, half of the Viking Raiders.
Really?
But
it's weird that because one commenter would have made that she would have always suited being with the Viking Raiders.
Well, yeah, there you go. She's actually the wife of the one who you not so much.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a shame, this one. You know, she's been wrestling since she was like 17 years old, and basically, you know, she's kind of come to the decision now where she wants to retire and explore like a couple of different, you know, avenues within her life. So, I mean, it's one of them, isn't it? You probably dream as a kid when you become a wrestler that you want to go to WWE. She managed to do that dream. And, you know, that dream's come to an end now. So, yeah, who knows? Maybe she just wanted to get that done and wants to explore some other things. But it's a shame, really, if you know, it's a dream kind of ruined. But hopefully it's positive future for her.
It's an unusual one, this, in the sense that, like, for a girl her age, who I imagine is in her 30s, just from looking at her, possibly late 20s, I don't know. Because I didn't research it, Carl, because I'm good like that. That's how I report things, right? But for her to, because she's been wrestling so long, she's been wrestling since she was 17. Like, she's already had quite a career. So it's strange to feel like, from her point of view, you know, if I was in that boat thinking, I've been to the top of the mountain, like, what do I do now? Especially having been released. I can see why she's ended up where she is, and she's like, I'm going to explore some other things. But yeah, like, it's crazy to think that she's had such a long career when she's it's not like she's, you know, she's someone Randy's gunning for, you know, like, they're in the 50s, get them, you know, not like that. Well,
I don't want to you know, I think we probably owe Sarah Logan a big apology here. She's actually 26.
I did say late 20s. Look, Sarah, if you're listening, which you're probably not, I'm going to be honest with you. I have a hard time thinking that anyone's younger than me. So it's nothing about you, right? It's me assuming we were roughly the same age, which we're clear.
Yeah, you know, you clearly just look like you've had a hard paper round. That's all. So Don't
No,
worry
no.
about it. Dust yourself off. Literally, you look dusty. And, you know.
My
Ooh,
bad.
sorry.
My bad. You don't look like you're in your 30s. So, so moving on from that, Carl. I feel bad now. Why did you research that, Carl? You could have left me to it. Let some smart ass tell me.
Well, I thought I'd be the smart ass. It's probably the only thing I'll get right. Because I'm not going to get anything right in this quiz. And,
So I'll
I
make
had
the
to
quiz
Google that
even
one.
harder
So.
now.
No, don't do it. Don't do it.
You know what, Carl? The quiz is multiple choice, and I'm going to make sure none of those choices are fucking right. That's what I'm going to do for you.
Oh, shit.
Right, so my next one, Carl, is that Charlotte, and I find it really odd what they're doing here. Charlotte is going to be out for a few weeks. She was written off on last week's Raw, I think. Anyway, she was written off on Raw, and she needs to have surgery, but no one's quite sure what the surgery's for, how long she's going to be out, or anything like that. Apparently, she said it's only going to be for a couple of weeks. But yeah, almost quite cagey as to why she's going to be out. You imagine it's some sort of injury-related thing as to why she wouldn't be able to wrestle for a couple of weeks. But yeah, kind of a strange one, because obviously
sorry,
sorry.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's not an injury, but it's just like getting implants changed or something. Because like you have to do that, don't you? Every so many years.
Yeah, and it's a fair point. I mean, because that can have a factor in the ring as well, can't it? In some senses, like, so she would have to. She'd still have to have that recovery period for an elective like that. So yeah, you may have a point. It just seems an odd time for it to happen. WWE have been very like it's all Charlotte wrestling, weekly Charlotte wrestling, WCW, and yeah, it just seems strange. A strange step to take to go right now with she's going to be gone like totally away from your face for a little while now, and again not a drastic amount of time, but strange in that sense, because now it seems that Sasha Banks is filling in for her, from what I can see at the minute. But yeah, so that's one that she's going to be out for a couple of weeks. Nothing too serious, but she is having some sort of surgery, but we're not allowed to know what it is unless she
Well, it'd be interesting if
we do know what it was.
It'd be interesting if absence makes the heart grow fonder, because I think we're all fucking sick of it. So who knows? Maybe a couple of weeks off and she comes back.
Nothing against Charlotte, but it was a very strange position to take, to just have her constantly on every show. I mean, like that doesn't help. Like, absence truly makes the heart grow fonder. We were all made up to see Kurt Angle return because we hadn't seen him in a while. It wasn't because he's on every week and we're made up to see him. So it can only help, Carl. It can only help. I might be happy when she turns back up. If she's going to turn back up and take the belt off Bayley, I'll definitely be happy she can do that now.
Yeah.
Works for me.
Anything to get off Bayley. Jesus.
It's just been too long now. So that's my one, Carl. Nice quick one, but Charlotte's out for a bit and we don't know why. There you go. That's the news.
All will be revealed at some point. So the next one for me. So a little bit of AEW news. So with the travel restrictions that are in place at the minute due to COVID, you've got the likes of Riho and Yuka Sakazaki still unable to actually return just because they're not able to travel back to the States at the minute. So bit of a shame, really. I've always been a big fan of Riho, and I know she gets a bit of stick because she is tiny and she's like tossing around Nyla Rose and stuff in the ring, and people are like, oh, what the fuck's going on? But
I mean, to be fair, it's not like she come in and bench pressed Awesome Kong, was it?
Well, exactly. But I know she gets a bit of stick for that. But she's the first AEW champ. She played a really good underdog character, and yeah, I feel like the women's division is really missing it. Sakazaki, maybe not so much, but
yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, Carl. Like, I can't recall many of Sakazaki's matches, so
yeah,
I feel like she probably didn't have as big a run, as it were, in AEW before COVID anyway. So yeah, I'm not really gonna miss that, but it's a very, very tight women's roster at the minute anyway. There's not they didn't have great numbers, so anytime there's not someone there, you feel it. One thing I am made up with is that it seems to be, and again, no offense, Rio, but it seems to be pushing Penelope Ford into the limelight a bit more, and we both agree that she's got something. She's got some talent there, and it'd be interesting to see what they could do with her in that sort of main event women's match kind of scene.
Yeah, definitely.
without
Fingers
digressing.
crossed they can come back soon.
Got some news about Rio. Let's talk about Penelope Ford. Apologies.
So I saw the eyebrow raise and everything. Penelope Ford.
So sticking with AEW, Carl. Some people will have noted that WWE or NXT have been advertising the Great American Bash, which is going to run in parallel to Fyter Fest. Now, the reason this is newsworthy, Carl, is because, as a lot of people will know, the Great American Bash is one of the brainchilds of Dusty Rhodes, by all accounts, and is very near and dear to the Rhodes or the Runnels family, to the point that Cody has desired to have the copyright for this name, this pay-per-view name, for some time, and WWE have always kept hold. They own the copyright. There's no thingy there. He can't take it if they've got it. But obviously, he's been in recent months been successfully gaining a few different ones. But all the ones he's gained, he said I'm paraphrasing, won't be an exact quote here, but he's basically said he'd happily give them up for the Great American Bash. That's the sort of the sentiment it has to him, and it is purely it's a sentimental thing. I don't think, as an audience, I don't think the AEW audience would be particularly bothered whether it's called the Great American Bash or whatever, to be honest with you. But it's got that that family connection for them, and I totally get that. So WWE, it feels like a jab. I don't know how you feel about that, Carl, but it feels like a deliberate fucking jab to suddenly use the pay-per-view again and to do it directly paralleling Fyter Fest. Feels like they are trying to have a shot at them in some senses.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Those dirty, petty motherfuckers, right?
Yeah.
That is awful. Right? It's so bad. Like, literally, it is the brainchild of Dusty, and it means a fuck ton to Cody.
Well, even before all it, like we're talking years, months before all this, he's expressed his desire to have that pay-per-view back.
Absolutely.
And to be honest, I would have held my hands up and gone, class act to WWE that had just gone, not that they're going to, but it would have shown a bit of class. But
and to be fair, if they didn't do that, and we're just like, well, no, we're going to retain the rights to it, kind of thing. But to use it, put it up against Fyter Fest, not just on one of the nights, do a 2-night do a 2-night American Bash on NXT
to directly parallel Fyter Fest.
Like, that is so scummy. That I was so pissed off.
Incredibly petty. But
bad.
Cody being a class act, as he's been asked about this, and as basically he bears no sort of, he's not made any. I'm sure internally, and certainly I would be if I was in his shoes, you'd be a bit pissed off. But he's just come out and he said, look, they own the copyright to it, and that's the bottom line of it. He's not going to harbour any sort of ill will for them using it or anything like that. So, fair play to him. He's been a class act about it. It's not like he's decided to sort of fire back at WWE, but this definitely feels like a shot at them, which is interesting because it obviously to me suggests, despite what everyone, you look at social media and people like to back and forth like, oh, AEW, they're not even better than TNA. They're not going to beat WWE and all that kind of stuff. This to me just goes, look, WWE is scared. This is exactly what's happening here. They're threatened by them, so they're having a shot at them. And don't get me wrong, AEW have had some very subtle shots at WWE over the past, but they're the underdog, aren't they? That they're being scrappy. When WWE do it, they're being petty, which is unfair and unbalanced. To go one company can do it and the other can't. I'd sooner they all just not do it. But it just doesn't seem like a classy thing for a massive company, a 30 plus years strong for WWE to be doing stuff like this. To be honest.
No, definitely not. If anything, it's giving me like a negative kind of like connotation with it now. Whereas I'm like, well, fuck him. Like I don't even want to watch it because it's just petty.
Exactly. Because again, it's a similar one where the NXT crowd would not have been bothered if it was called anything else.
Yeah,
they could have called it the Great Canadian Bash if they wanted to. It wouldn't have mattered to us.
Well, exactly. And like fair dues, they used In Your House, and that was quite cool. It was nostalgic. It was old WWF. Perfectly, I completely get that. And fine, they bought WCW, and that was where Great American Bash used to be. Cool.
See, I think that this is where this feels wrong, because In Your House for me it worked because it was a nostalgic trip for WWE.
Mm-hmm.
Like the connection isn't. They may have bought the company, but the connection isn't really there. This isn't going to feel like a nostalgic trip. They might try to make it feel like it. This isn't going to feel like a nostalgic trip for people like yourself and to a lesser extent me, who've been watching WWE for years. You're not going to be like, oh yeah, look at all this nostalgic WCW stuff. They'd have been better leaning on some of the older. Trying to think of one of their older pay-per-views that they've abandoned.
I've had that fucking
I'm
many.
struggling to think of a good one.
Resurrection.
You know what? Bring back Taboo Tuesday. I enjoyed Taboo Tuesday.
Yeah, fucking hell. I did as well.
As a pay-per-view
even
concept.
Cyber Monday, whatever it was called.
That was crazy ahead of its time as a concept. That would work so much better now when you've got so much access to actual like social media to cast these votes. It works so much better now.
Yeah, it's
Bring
crazy
that back
they haven't done that. You know, absolutely crazy because
Unreal,
it did so well as well.
They'll do it in a panic when they realise it works now. When someone else does it, TNA will do it and they'll go, "Shit, it does work. We'll bring that back." That's what'll happen.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Anyway, we're being bitter about WWE. I love it.
So unlike us.
And I think the last one of the night, Carl, is yours. Take it away.
Yes, so the final one, another AEW one. So we've mentioned it a couple of times before, but with everything going on with Moxley and Renee Young, you know, the Moxley versus Brian Cage match is basically in danger of being cancelled potentially because, you know, Moxley has to self-isolate. So it's a bit of a, because I don't think it's been 2 weeks since she's been diagnosed with it. So if he does show up at Fight Fest and fight Brian Cage, then I know they've pushed it back to the 8th of July or whenever it is. I think.
Yeah,
so
it's on the second night now, isn't it? To give that little bit of extra time.
So hopefully it's all kind of hunky dory kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. Imagine if it doesn't go ahead.
I know. Do you know what? Like it's. I admire that they're taking every precaution. And it's not the right thing to concentrate on when we talk about this news article. But what tickled me, because I read this one and I was like, oh, how the other half live. Because they're self-isolating in the same fucking house. He's going to stay in the West Wing. She'll stay in the East. It's like, fuck's sake. But yeah, they're not even see each other. They won't even know they're in the same house. They're not going to be anywhere near each other. But no, I joke. It's just funny that they can isolate in the same property. I wish that was the case for me. Yeah, but hopefully the match goes ahead because, you know, how do you not put the main title on the scene for one of your bigger pay-per-views? Because this is up there with All In or All Out or Shake It All About. I can't remember which one, but it's up there with the original pay-per-views, as it were. You know, anything they add in now won't be from the original run. Fighter Fest was always one of the big ones, wasn't it? So
yeah,
be a shame not to have that match. And I'm sure they'll make up for it. You know, they'll put something on the night and it'll be good, and they'll eventually have the match between Cage and Moxley. But I sincerely hope, you know, he's tested negative. The isolation and their testing protocols will hopefully mean that he can do. But yeah, a concerning one indeed, Carl. Concerning one indeed.
Yeah, fingers crossed everything still goes ahead, I guess. But interesting.
Sure. Right. So, have you any others, Carl? I think that's this week in wrestling.
That's a lot for me.
Unless anything's cropped up in like today or yesterday, because I'll be honest, I haven't looked.
This week's episode is brought to you by floriday.co.uk, where you can get all the latest news about Florida, Disney, and Universal Studios, as well as valuable tips and touring plans to get the most out of your Florida holiday. That's floriday.co.uk, the sunshine state of mind.
Hey guys, Santino Marella here. And if you're like me, you're sitting home during the quarantines. These are the times of quarantine. Well, I discovered a WrestleTalk podcast called A to the K. It's changed my life. Now I don't want to go back to work. I just want to sit home in the quarantines and listen to Carl and Anthony. They are the best. Together, they're even better. So listen, A to the K, WrestleTalk podcast. Check it out. Change your life. You'll be thanking me later.